What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra Hardwar. This morning, I'm joined by Deputy Editor Nathan Ingraham. Hey, Nate.
Good morning, Devindra.
Good morning. We've also got podcast producer Ben Elman here. Hey, Ben.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. It is, I don't know, T minus 5 days before iPhone Day, before September
It's
9th.
happening.
We're recording this. We're recording this on September 4th. We've already done our iPhone rumor roundup last week with Mr. Mark Gurman from Bloomberg, so go check out that. But this week, I think we're going to talk about the vibes, about how we're feeling about this launch, because I've noticed nobody really cares. Like, this is a very muted Apple launch, even for the dull years. Like, I think even last year I felt a little more hype, even though this year you're going to actually get a new iPhone with a whole new design. I don't know, maybe I'm just out of tune, but we'll talk about how we're feeling about the new phone, where Apple's headed. We've also got some news to dive into, including a major update on US v Google. Turns out Google will not be facing many consequences for being a search monopoly. What fun. As always, folks, if you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes and drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. And also, we'll take your questions for our Ask Engadget section there. So, drop us anything, AMA, ask us anything, things you want us to solve, or just things you want us to ponder on the show. And also join us Thursday mornings around 10:30 a.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel for our live stream. You'll get to see our faces. Sometimes we'll show off gadgets, and we'll do some Q&A with the audience. So join us for that. All right, Nate. iPhone 17. Like,
Yep.
let's lay down the things we're expecting next week. It's iPhone 17,
Yep.
Basic and Pro, iPhone 17 Air, which is the super slim 5.5 millimeter thick model that's been rumored for a while now, and that seems like it's pretty much it. Are you excited about any of this hardware?
Not terribly. And I'm guessing that you and Mark Gurman got into this last week a bit, that, he published that article recently where it was like the 3-year kind of plan, right? And I think you could say that we're at the end of one iPhone era right now, right? Like next year, we're expecting new stuff, more transformative stuff. This is the like last year of getting the like nips and tucks and tweaking of things to optimize the old design, which has kind of been around since 2020. So yeah, it's hard to get super excited about that. I personally need a new phone, so I'm like looking forward to having a new option.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of like the idea of having the like super optimized version of what they've been putting out, because I think it's still pretty good. But yeah, it's hard not to get excited about it, right? There's not that much to talk about. Even though for the first time in a few years, they are releasing a totally new model, right? The Air.
That doesn't happen very often. We've not seen a brand new looking iPhone design since the iPhone 10.
Yeah, probably that was the last time they made a really
Yeah.
big change. And like the 10 and the 11 were kind of like iterations on, or like the 10S and the 11 were iterations. And then with the 12, they went to the flat sides. And since then, it's been kind of like they got the regular, the Pro. The Pro has 3 cameras, the regular has 2. Like that's all been the
We
same.
lost the notch. We lost the notch somewhere in there too with
Yep.
the what is that thing called? Is it the Magic Island?
The Dynamic Island.
Dynamic Island,
Yeah.
which I do actually like. I think
Yeah, I
it's
do
a pretty
too.
useful
If
thing.
you're going to have a spot, which I understand why physics, dictates that they need that, like it's a pretty good use of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Air is interesting because I don't think anyone's really asking for a thinner iPhone with worse battery and fewer cameras. Uh,
Well, it's,
so
I think you're right.
so
I think that's
why? I saw some study, and I don't know how rigorous it was, but it was like the things people want is like more battery, bigger screen, etc. And I think the most interesting thing about this is that they're getting rid of the standard iPhone Plus, right? So they're only going to have one iPhone 17 with presumably the 6.1-ish inch screen. They're not going to have a second big one. So if you want a
I
big
think
screen,
the rumor is the screen is going to be slightly bigger than last.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But so if you want like a substantial screen increase, you've got to jump all the way to the like whatever 18 Pro Max, which will probably cost $1,200 starting, and that's a lot of money. It's 300, $400 more than I think the iPhone like 17 Plus was, or 16 Plus.
16, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a weird situation that we're stepping into, because we're not really expecting a huge change for the basic iPhone 17. Slightly bigger screen. but not so much. They may have the promotion screen. That is something we've seen. So high refresh rate there, essentially getting a lot of what was in the iPhone 16 Pro. It's kind of that downsample to the base model. I don't think anybody's really going to miss the plus. I have liked the plus for my mom who has trouble
Mhm.
seeing things on small screens. So that is a bigger screen that's easier for her to use. So I recently bought her like a 13 plus to use. That turned out to be pretty good for her. But it kind of seems like to your point, Nate, I don't think anybody is asking for a super thin phone. But it does seem like these companies, when they've reached like an innovation point, it's more like, look what I can do. Look at what I can make, which is an iPhone that is crazy thin. And Samsung has already done this with the one of the recent Galaxies that is meant to be super thin. And honestly, Apple has done this too with the iPad Pro, but in that one, they sold both. It became the new Pro, right? It
Yep.
replaced the old model. It was still faster. It still had better battery life. It was still functionally a better iPad Pro. It was just super thin. It seems like this time they're trying to sell a functionally slightly worse iPhone with less camera and potentially less battery life, according to Gerben. They're trying to sell that, and the main selling point is just thin, just design. Is that I'm probably like I'm not super compelled by that, especially since practically it's going to be a worse phone. How does that like sit with you, Nate? Do you think the broader public will care for that?
I don't think so because of everything you just said, and it depends on the price too.
Hmm.
But it would be hard. Let's say you've got the iPhone 7, the base vanilla 17, right? The base 16 was a really good phone this past year. Like you
Yes.
said, it's been
Yes.
picking up stuff that the pros had. Like it has the dynamic island now. It has the camera button and the action button. And um, to your iPad point, I've been using the iPad Pro since it came out. It's been a year and a half already, which is crazy to me. But they made it
You
thinner
think?
without sacrificing anything.
Yeah.
Same, it's got like a M4. It's got an amazing, unbelievable screen. Battery life is still good, so you're not giving anything up. And with a tablet that you hold, making it thinner and thus lighter goes a long way towards being able to like hand hold like the 13-inch Pro. Like it's light enough that it doesn't feel weird to do that now, whereas before it still always felt to me a little bit awkward to hold in your hands.
Yeah.
So there's a benefit there. And then with the Air, I don't know what the benefit is except for like it being super thin. And like in a vacuum, that sounds nice, but I don't want to compromise certainly on the
Hmm.
battery or the cameras, to be honest.
It seems like Apple's going to serve like everybody, right? The base iPhone's going to be there for the typical customer who does not need the stuff in the Pro phone, but will still have decent battery life. The Air will be the design focused one. The Pro models are still around, and I think in many ways the Pro upgrades will be useful for the people who care about things like Pro upgrades. Some of the things I've read, including up to 8x zoom on the Pro Max, 48
Mhm.
megapixel rear cameras across all the Pros. Let me see here.
That's
Because they're
intriguing to me.
That's intriguing.
Yeah.
Because they're rearranging the camera array, so it's going to be fully across the top, sort of like the Pixel phones. They may only use glass on the bottom part and not all the way to the edges. So like glass just in the middle, maybe to help with reception. But
Or
that presumably
charging,
makes it
maybe.
more
Does
durable.
is the glass usually for wireless? Yeah.
Yeah, you need the charging, a vapor cooling system for vapor chamber cooling system, which could help it run, cooler and more efficiently to metal covered battery. Just seems like the hardcore pro phone. This seems like, the pro phones for people who really care about this stuff and who live on their iPhones a lot. This is why I've been on the pros since they've come out. The one thing that is kind of disappointing to me, I'm hearing potentially return to the all aluminum frame.
Yeah,
Instead
that's
of the sort of
surprising.
Yeah, instead of the mix between titanium and aluminum that we saw last year, that is or 2 years ago. That's one reason I jumped up to I have the 15 Pro Max,
Yep.
and it makes the Max phone feel lighter because it is a lighter metal. So we may go back to a slightly heavier Pro Max. Unfortunately, they got me because like I like the screen size, I like this battery life. I
Mhm.
live on my phone more than I would like an iPad. So even if it's slightly heavier, I'll probably just have to live with it. How do you feel about those changes to the Pros, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, so I have a 14 Pro, so I'm going back a little bit, and mine has the stainless steel, which actually I love from an aesthetics and hand
Yeah.
feel perspective. However, I can respect and understand why like going to titanium, makes it lighter. And when you're, especially when you're talking about the larger phone like that, I've always appreciated like if I'm shelling out this much cash for a device that it has some premium material to it.
Hmm.
So going to aluminum, I think would be like a major bummer, to be quite frank. Like if I'm going to do that, then like part of me is like, well, I might as well just buy the base model. Um, but I'm still miffed that it sounds like the base model will just have the 2 cameras. Google goes ahead and puts 3 on the Pixel 10 base model, which I think was like really compelling to me. Like going away from having a telephoto lens would be a real bummer. I don't want to do that at this point. I take tons of pictures and I like having that option for an actual optical zoom.
Yeah.
And being able to get that on a Pixel for $800, like that's the kind of thing that makes one think about switching, to be honest.
One upgrade I'm hearing that could affect all the phones is potentially a 24 megapixel front facing camera up from 12 megapixels that we've seen for the last few years. Now that's interesting because it means better video quality potentially too, but also a lot more selfie potential, I guess you'd call it, because like you can crop in more, you could probably do more. Hopefully it's going to be just like a higher quality sensor in general. Does that float your boat at all, Nate?
Yeah, I think basically, like you said, like having more pixels just gives you more options in that sense. So I wonder if they'll do something along the lines of on the iPad, which has the kind of center stage camera. Which I think it's still
Yeah.
12 megapixels, but it's a very naturally wide angle camera that it crops in and lets you move around as needed. And I wonder if they're going to do something in that vein where, the end result will still be a 12 megapixel, but you can go wider if you've got more people, or crop in if it's just you or you and one other person. So
Yeah.
I don't take a lot of selfies, but I know that everyone does. So like obviously, like, yeah, that's an important thing.
You also
take a
have to
lot of
think
selfies,
about
yeah.
video creators.
Yes.
Everybody on TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and everything, like this we've become a society of the front-facing camera. That's how people record a lot of their, direct to camera. Oh, I just had this thought, like sort of TikToks. And it's crazy that we haven't had like a significant update to the iPhone camera in a long time.
It's gotten better. It's
That's
gotten slowly better, but yeah.
That's a good shout though, because I think today, I believe, Adobe said that they are bringing Premiere to the iPhone. And so when you think about like the pipeline of editing and stuff for people who are, again, shooting Reels, TikTok, etc., having that software on a phone with a correspondingly better front-facing camera just makes it even easier to do everything right on the one device and get stuff, out to the internet quicker. So I can certainly see why that would be a big deal for a lot of people.
I think I'd hate using a like heavy duty video editing app on my phone. It would feel like I don't know, trying to edit on a desktop, but with like my hands cut off or something. That's just me.
You're not old, but
I get it. I do get it. Like
you're old school. You want to like.
I don't know if
but 14-year-olds would definitely do that.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's using CapCut. Like everyone's using software that is natively made for video editing on mobile, right? So it's like Adobe's trying to get there and like, oh man, how did we let this happen? But iMovie's there. If you have an iPhone, iMovie's been there for a long time.
Yep.
I don't think creators are doing a lot of like hardcore video editing.
No, it's just like slap it together, get it online, move on to the next thing.
The CapCut is there. CapCut is the thing. I think I don't think Apple could ever really change the sort of aperture or the sort of lens size of the selfie, just because people are so trained on it, right? If you tweak anything there, creators are going to flip out. But yeah, if you give the default kind of framing right now and then give the ability to go a little more wide, which you can do now, but
it's pretty small.
It's pretty small.
Yeah,
that could be a useful thing. I think the better cropping is something too. So anybody who gets one of these new phones will have some sort of new front-facing camera to deal with. Is there anything? So you need to upgrade this year, Nate. I have to feel like I need to upgrade this year also. I'm still fine with the 15 Pro Max because that still runs Apple Intelligence. This year's update's not that interesting. Next year, the rumors are most likely the Fold. If you got something this year, would you consider jumping to a Fold next year if it was good enough?
Not if it's going to cost $1,800 or whatever Google and Samsung's do. I just can't. Can't. Like
it will.
Yeah, it will, and I can't. There's just there's no earthly reason for me to spend that kind of money on something.
Do you pay your phone prices, your phone costs all upfront, or do you divide?
I haven't historically. I'm thinking I might this year just because I like the idea of having it just be done. And my phone will be paid off, so I'll get like a decent trade-in for it, and I can just call it a day. But however, that aside, I'm sure lots of I don't think the folds are going to be mainstream yet, but they have to do it, obviously, at this point. And in typical Apple fashion, they're letting, the Android manufacturers mess around with it. Like Samsung's first couple were just not good, and now they're good. And now Apple's like, okay, this market's mature enough for us to step into. And I'd seen somebody say something along the lines of the Air is going to be like half of the Fold,
Yeah, basically.
which like makes a ton of sense to me. Like that's a reason to do it, I suppose, just for like, you know, R&D, right?
Prove you can do it. That you
Yep.
can build this thing. Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
thing that doesn't make sense to me is yes, okay, you're going to make all of these iPhone Air, which is half of the phone, but the reputation that the iPhone Air is probably going to have is why did they even make this battery too small?
Mhm.
And it's also not small enough to satisfy the people who are already really missing the iPhone mini. So like they're doing this whole production process to, I guess, make sure their factories are like up to snuff for like the next step in their plan. But
Yeah.
there are going to be a lot of unhappy people who don't follow things like Engadget so closely, and they're like, oh cool, thin phone, and they're going to be like annoyed within 4 months. What
Probably.
is the possible like, I don't know, like PR hit Apple could take due to
I think
this?
we're just gonna like. I think there's gonna have to be something that we don't know
Yeah. Yeah.
about this device to make it more compelling. And maybe I'm setting myself up for a letdown by saying that because like I don't know what it could be.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if it's gonna have
all
will
the
it have
rumored features are out there, so it's like I don't know what they could really surprise us
will
with.
it have promotion? Will it have always
Yeah.
on display? I guess it can have always on display if the battery's going to be lousy. They're going to need to
Mhm.
throttle that. I don't know. I just don't see a market for it. And the interesting thing is that it seems like for several years they've been trying to figure out what that other device is, right? Like there's the base
Mhm.
size, there's the plus or the max. They had the mini for a little bit, but the fact that they're getting rid of the plus tells me there was less of a market for that than they thought, and they got rid of the mini because there was less of a market for that than they thought. So
And people
like
complained about battery life on the mini. Like that's
true.
the main thing
Yes.
too. So to what you're saying, Ben, like I think people do jump to these like unique versions. But I just saw somebody online saying, "Oh, my iPhone, I think 13 mini. I forgot when they stopped, but oh, my mini, the battery life is terrible." Now, so several years later, I wish Apple made devices that weren't just so disposable, and I really had to restrain myself from replying, being like, "Well, you bought
That's a
this old
4-year-old,
phone.
5-year-old phone.
It's an
Yeah.
old phone. In general, you should probably, if you want to keep your phone, it's probably good to do a battery refresh within like 2 to 3 years. That's just
Mhm.
physics, unfortunately. Like these batteries wear down over time. They're less useful. They don't last as long. But I get the frustration is totally real because a normal consumer does not see, like, they're not going to go read our Engadget reviews, unfortunately. They say, ooh, new phone, new small phone. I get phone.
New thin phone.
Yeah,
Mhm.
new thin phone. Looks
So
better.
I will.
Yeah.
My thought that I just had is, I think Apple is making this phone for the market of people who want to feel something. Like to be like, I know we also make the jokes, oh, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z just to feel something. And I just had the thought of being like, I'm so bored. I've been buying these phones for so long. I was like, maybe I'll just get this weird new one just to feel something, even if it's
Feel
even
something.
if it ends up being anger eventually, right?
I
Like
totally, that's me telling myself not to get a folding Android phone just to feel
mhm.
something and play with it,
Yeah.
essentially. But yeah,
Like I was saying to somebody, I was like, maybe I should put the iOS 26 beta on my phone just to feel something.
you should do
Um,
that, Nate. It's
yeah,
been long enough. It's pretty stable now. I
there's
do
something
that.
to. I
Yeah.
kind of like waiting till like launch day for. I don't know why. Like I've had the betas on my iPads for ages because I've been testing it.
Yeah.
So but also my phone is old and I don't want to like trash the battery further. So I'm like, maybe I'll just wait till I get the new one.
I feel that. Totally feel that. Well, you know
Well,
what, Nate?
okay,
Well,
hold
yeah,
on.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So, Nate, speaking of old
Mhm.
phones, I want to bring in just one comment from our live stream chat.
Mhm.
Reminder, if you're only listening to the RSS version, we do a live stream for the podcast on the Engadget YouTube page. But I want to bring in a comment that's kind of like news you can use sort of thing. So Michael Angel Dominguez asks, can y'all compare the difference between the batteries in the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 17 in terms of hours of use?
No,
Mhm.
no 17 stuff yet. Just to be clear.
Yeah, I mean, I think every year they say, "Oh, it's X hours longer," and I feel like it's gonna feel when you buy a new phone, it's gonna feel longer because it's a brand new battery. So you're not dealing with something that's running at like 90% or 85% capacity, like mine is. So there's going to be that immediate like hit of like, ooh, better battery. But I don't know, longevity, like how it's going to feel in 6 months or a year. Like by then you'll lose some capacity, and then it'll feel not quite good enough again. It's like that's what happens to me with everything. Like my Apple Watch is almost 2 years old, and at some point in the last 3 to 6 months, the battery just like crashed on me, and I feel like I can't barely get through a day with it. It's so frustrating.
And battery life is about more than just the size of the battery. It's
Mm,
the efficiency of the chip. It's how much power does the display draw, because that's the thing sucking up most of the power most of the time. How efficient are the modems and the antennas? Like all of that, all when your phone heats up when you're downloading a big app or something, that's power. That's power being drained from your system. I'm looking up quickly here. We can compare the iPhone 16 to the 14. The iPhone 16 has a 3,500 milliamp battery. The 14 not listed, but the 14 Pro had a 3,200 milliamp battery, so probably
So I'm looking at the
1,000. Yeah,
Wikipedia article for
yeah.
the 14 base. 14 base is 3279 milliamps.
There we go. There we go. So 3,200 ish. This the 16 only has slightly a couple hundred more milliamps, but it has a vastly different processor and a much more efficient one. So that's why it's really hard to measure battery life.
right. We'll see what the new chip is like, right? And then
Yeah, we
that
will.
is one thing that obviously Apple's been doing well is the chips in there
Yeah.
keep getting better. So, fingers crossed.
Fingers
I,
crossed. I mean, I will say the one red flag we heard from Mark Gurman last week was that potentially the iPhone Air's battery will be smaller than the base 17, and
mhm,
potentially just like similar to the size of the iPhone 12 or 13, which is
mhm,
that's small.
yeah.
That is small, unfortunately. Yeah.
I will say, so there's one other thing about this upcoming event I think is worth a quick mention on, which actually is perhaps the most exciting thing to me is the AirPods 3 or AirPods Pro 3, if those come out.
Yeah.
I only bring this up because I think you could make an argument that the AirPods Pro 2 has been one of Apple's just best overall products in the last
Yeah.
5 years. I've had mine for, I think, almost since they launched, and they're just great. They work, they sound really good. They've added a lot of interesting new features since they came
Mhm.
out. You know, like that is the kind of thing that like yes, there's a little sticker shock when you buy it, but then you use it almost every day for 4 or 5 years and yeah, imagining not having them is a bummer. So I'm excited to see what they do with the new ones.
That is such a Halo product because like I remember I went to go see a movie, it fell out of my pocket, got somewhere in the theater seat, and I did not know until I had left. So I went back the next day being like, "Hey, has anybody seen these?" I was able to like go in with the manager and look. Disappeared because people love these things, unfortunately. And I just bought a new pair. Like I didn't suck it up. I have a lot of earbuds. I have so many earbuds all around me, but I'm like the convenience of
I
this
think I washed a
is
pair of mine
suck. Yeah.
and then got them
Yeah,
again.
like that's a sign that if you cannot live without a product easily, it is a total success. I don't think that's going to be the case for the iPhone 17 Air, but we will see. We're only a couple
Yep.
of days away. We're going to have a lot of coverage there, by the way. Like we're going to have people on the ground. We're going to be doing a live blog, and if we have time, maybe we'll do a little bit of a live stream right after the event, but we shall see. Nate, thank you so much for joining us. Where can we find you online these days?
Yeah, I am on Blue Sky and Threads occasionally at Nate Ingram, and you can always send me a nasty email at nathan@engadget.com.
All right, let's take a break here.
Okay.
We can talk
Yeah,
about
let's
these
take a quick
bits.
break.
If you wanted to
Okay.
stick around for this, Nate, feel free, or just drop. Up to you.
Yeah, let me just check in. If I'll hang around for a few, if you don't mind me multitasking.
It's all
Yeah.
good. Do what you
Yeah,
need.
just mute yourself while you're typing because you sure do type with purpose.
I
Type
do,
with
and
purpose.
the
The
mic is right
biggest
there.
gaming. I just want to say we're being paid by Apple.
Mhm.
If we were being paid by Apple, I would not be here. I would not be here.
Also, we wouldn't be
I
talking
wouldn't be
crap
on the
about
live stream. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah. So I wanted to shout that out specifically because I wanted to connect it with another comment by user Zanil that says
Mhm.
the Apple charm is gone. The company is over and has become another IBM. I don't think that it
That's
is.
pretty rough.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's gotten to the point where it's another IBM, but like the rapturous feeling of like, oh my God, what are they going to make? Like circa 2005 through like maybe the iPhone 4 or so. Yeah, that is completely gone.
And that's in large part due to like product maturity,
Yep.
getting older as a human, and also I think just the fact that like the tech landscape is a dystopian nightmare right now, so it's harder to be excited about a little a little widget, right, that's spying on you the whole
I mean,
time.
everything tech is dystopian, everything's dystopian, but also the base level thing we forget is things have gotten pretty good. Like no matter you go buy a
Yep.
typical Android phone, you're going to get a pretty good smartphone experience that you
Yep.
would not have easily had 10 years ago.
Right.
So
Probably
to
for
a
less
certain level,
money too.
yeah, probably for less money. But to a certain level, Apple, Google, everybody are victims of their own success because the rapturous response from an audience, it's like a drug hit, right? Like it's going to be good the first couple times, but once you are consistently satisfying those people and not doing anything extra, the enthusiasm is going to go down, unfortunately.
So Nate was talking about like, oh, you're older as a person. Like, I mean, even in 2005, like,
Hmm.
regardless of the age of the blogger or a tech reporter or something, like people were getting really crazy about new Apple releases,
Well,
and I
because it was
think,
new.
Yeah.
but I think that also points to a thing that you can only write about in history books, which is
Mhm.
like there were a lot of cool innovations that were right next to each other within a few years of one another. And once you get to the smartphone era, people focused on making that better step by step rather than going to, I don't know, like a hologram that you can hold in your hand or something like
I mean, we went to
that.
VR. We've tried things. We put holograms on your head, right? And
Yep.
it was a whole thing for years, but it was not super consumer friendly. So it,
Well, yeah, and that was
yeah,
at the late 2010s or late
2015,
20.
2016, yeah,
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about like the very first like Oculus or before
2016.
it was.
That was
Was
20.
that,
Well, the first time we saw it was 2013, but
Yes,
it
okay,
wasn't
yeah.
like a
So,
real thing until
those were dev kits. Yeah,
2015.
yeah.
but still, okay, that was
There,
like the
there,
early.
yeah,
That was the early 2010s or so. That might have been like the next big thing after
yeah.
smartphones, but that was not as easy to immediately get into people's hands because it made people motion sick.
That was a problem. And also wearables. People were so hyped over wearables. Like, listen, when I was working at my previous site, one of our reporters, Chrissy Farr, who's guested on the show a couple of times, and is
Mhm.
now she's a health tech investor, I believe. But she broke the story on the Samsung Galaxy, the first Galaxy Watch, whatever they were calling it at the time. Was it the Galaxy Gear?
Yeah.
Um, and it was on Good Morning America. People were hyped for who cares about a Samsung smartwatch? Nobody cares about those things really, and it didn't really sell well. But the hype of what is this next new wearable was like
You
a
know,
thing.
what
To
I will say though is like
Yeah.
talking about little iterations and what the Pixel did this year. I liked the extra camera on the
Hmm.
base 10. I also really like the fact that it sounds like the Pixel Watch 4 is going to have a much easier to replace battery. Like
That's
I was saying, how like this Apple Watch of mine, I would love to pop a new battery in it, but I can't easily, and Apple won't do it
You're
unless
gonna
the
be able to do
capacity is below 80%.
they
So
will
like,
just pay a ton. They will do it, but you have
right,
to
but I
pay.
don't want to. Yeah, I just want to be able to just do it when I want to and not have to pay a ton. Because then I would keep this thing for 3 or 4 years, 5 years. They don't want me to do that though.
They don't. The newer ones you can, according to iFixit, you can pop open those cases. It just requires a little bit of elbow grease, but you can get in there to replace those batteries. I see Deeper Nine saying smart glasses are the future. I'm seeing multiple ones. I have the X Reels, like multiple X Reels I'm testing. They're cool, but man, is this awkward. Man, is this thick and not as easy as just like looking at a computer monitor.
And those are some of
So
the better ones, right?
these are the better ones. Like it is cool to be able to plug into my Switch and have like a virtual
Ooh.
window in front of me.
All right, I'm
It's just
sold.
hard to use. It is kind of that's kind of stuff is cool, and maybe there'll be something there.
Do
We're
either of
trying
you
different things.
remember that TED Talk where
Mhm.
the probably a physicist who was one of the first people to figure out multi-touch computer screens or multi-touch touch screens. I mean, there was a whole TED talk about it in maybe it was like 2 or 3 years before the iPhone came out,
Mhm.
and it was talking about like capacitance and stuff, and figuring out where you're touching based on where the charge is broken. It seems like that has had a much easier time getting from the lab to people's hands than like that next wave we were just talking about, which is I think everybody was talking about wearables, everybody was talking about like computers on your face, Google Glass around like 2011, 2012, and then also like the Oculus and everything. But there's a perceptual issue there. It's still
Anything, yeah. If you have to wear it, if it disrupts the way you typically live your life, I think it's gonna be harder for consumers to get on. That's why I'm not like super hyped on smart glasses in general, because most people will not want to put on an extra pair of glasses unless you're sitting down at a desk to do specific work. But anyway, we should move on.
All
Let's
right.
get chat.
Well, in that case, I got to jump.
Send us your audio, Nate. Thank
Will
you so
Yep.
do.
much.
Or just send it to me.
All right.
Send to Ben in wave format, please.
All right. Later, everyone.
Later, folks. Later. All right, chat. We will get onto it. We've got some news. We've got some fun things. It's always funny when people say we're being paid by a specific company when we spent also a long time criticizing aspects of that company. So that's a fun thing. Listen to the whole thing, folks. All right. Let's move on to some other news, and let me just set this up here. Okay. All right, let's move on to some other news. I think the biggest story this week, other than waiting to see what the heck Apple's going to do, and the most substantial story of the week, is the culmination of the US v. Google antitrust suit. And it turns out that Google does not have to sell Chrome, doesn't have to divest anything. And this is a judgment from Amit Mehta, the same judge who ruled that Google was a search monopoly last year. So I think after looking at everything, let me see here. Here's a quote that we have in our article by Chris Abel. He says, Google will not be required to divest Chrome, nor will the court include a contingent divestiture of the Android operating system in the final judgment. Plaintiffs, that's the government, overreached in seeking forced divestiture of these key assets, which Google did not use to effect any illegal restraints. So, end quote. Essentially, they're saying that the government asked for too much by asking for those breakups, even though that the search, was deemed a monopoly. They're going to be doing some other things. They're going to share some search data, not all search data. Google will not be able to do some exclusive deals. This is where it gets confusing. So let me just break this down.
Yeah, I was confused by this, and I was going to ask you, like,
Yeah.
So you don't have to preload apps in order to get access to the Play Store. I didn't even know that the Play Store was walled off.
That was an issue. That's why Amazon Fire devices do not have Play Store apps. They don't have Google apps or the Play Store. They have to build their own store because they don't have those base level Google apps in there. So that's an interesting thing that could change the way Android tablets or Android devices in general work. But the main thing is Google will be able to continue to pay partners like Apple for preloading search and other apps into their products. The judge said that ending these arrangements could cause downstream harms to distribution partners, related markets, and consumers. And that is an interesting one because we did talk about how essentially 90% of Mozilla's revenue, Mozilla's a nonprofit, but the maker of the Firefox browser, 90% came from this Google search deal to make Google the default search engine in Firefox. If that breakup happened and nobody was paying Mozilla, like that company's done. Mozilla would just freaking die. And that is, so I think part of the reasoning was that to avoid unintended outcomes like that, that's one reason why they didn't break up these companies. I don't think that's necessarily a good reason, Ben. Like I think that is a sign of just how badly Google's like entrenched in everything. And it's unfortunate that a company like Mozilla is just, it's basically just an arm of Google at this point.
Also, Google can still decide at any point that it doesn't want to send all of this money over to Mozilla. Like, it's a client company. Yeah, it's totally crazy that like Google could kill Mozilla tomorrow. That's nuts. I had this other thing that I wanted to say. Oh, why can't I remember?
Let me clarify some other things. So
okay, yeah, go on.
So Google Google still can pay partners to be preloaded as a search for apps and products and things like that. But this one thing is getting confusing. Like Google will no longer be permitted to strike exclusive deals around the distribution of Search, Google Assistant, Gemini, or Chrome, Meta ruled. And I don't quite know what that means. That is where it's getting kind of, you can still pay to be the default search engine, but exclusivity deals, like specific exclusivity deals, that's maybe that means to like not let other people potentially be there. I've seen some reporting around this lawsuit or the sort of judgment is that a company could potentially have multiple defaults, right? You could have Google as your default search engine in Safari, but you turn on private browsing mode. Maybe the default there is a private, search engine that doesn't take as much data. Maybe they could do something like that.
Although we found out that DuckDuckGo is like sending search data
Oh
to
yeah.
Microsoft like a long time ago. But when we're talking about like unintended consequences,
Mhm.
we were talking about unintended consequences, and like if this ruling didn't allow Google to pay people to be the default search engine, then it would totally kill Mozilla. We also should
Mhm. Mhm.
the tech industry, the judicial, and then the executive being really annoyed at the judicial that they're actually doing regulations, you know?
I mean, this is a weird story because this thing started in the first Trump administration when they wanted to really take it hard to big tech. Like they were really pushing big tech companies.
Yeah, now there's a lot more big tech
Now
people
there's a lot more
in the
big tech people.
administration.
But also then in the Biden administration, we had Lena Khan, who we've talked about quite a bit, who did a lot of work towards like making the FTC a much more modern agency when it came to seeing how regulations work. So the thing about search, right, and a lot of these products is that you're not paying anything for it, right? And essentially, before the way the U.S. government determined, or the way regulatory agencies determined monopolies was, are you hurting the sort of like price? Are consumers paying too much for this product because you've axed out the competition? You can't really do that for free products, so you have to think about it in other ways. And part of Lena Khan's arguments was that Google is muscling out any other search competition, especially because it's so big it can just pay to be the default on all of these other platforms. There's no way for a new search engine to come in and stay alive. One other thing that's changed, Ben, not just the administrations, but is that generative AI is now a thing and has quickly become like a bit of an Achilles heel for Google, right? Like Google was sitting pretty for a very long time. Then ChatGPT came out, OpenAI came out as this major competitor in the AI world. Google was forced to get its own things out there, and it was like embarrassing how unprepared they were for it. Now they have Gemini. Now they can kind of do more, but Google is not seen as the generative AI leader, right? Google is seen as kind of an also ran because OpenAI has just made these major leaps on the consumer front before Google. I think the court's sort of like saying, well, this is happening. You're actually not the top dog completely anymore. Even if you have the monopoly in search, the future is not search. The future is sort of like this other thing. People using
The
Gen
future
AI
is
search.
zero-click search.
This, yeah, well, zero click search and also things telling you how to feel. Like it's generative AI search, and I really don't like using it that way. But anyway,
So let's
uh,
move from Google in the courts
mhm.
to Google in your house. Tell me more about this Gemini smart home thing, because this gets to what I've been saying for so long, which is
Uh,
generative AI is best when you can talk to your voice assistant. This is powering the voice assistants that we've wanted for like 10 years now.
I mean, we don't know. What we do know is that Google's going to reveal more information about its Gemini for Home plans on October 1st. So there's going to be some sort of virtual event, I guess, where we will get to see the stuff in action. But I'm reading from our article by Steve Dent here. Gemini for Home will replace Google Assistant and enable natural language commands, plus easier to use controls. You could use it to, come up with recipes based on ingredients in your fridge, provide information on general topics like buying a car, and help you troubleshoot home appliance issues. It'll be available both in free and subscription versions, like what Amazon is doing with Alexa and Alexa Plus, and will be, function of multiple smart home devices. So it could be like the Google Home smart tablet, could be multiple things, and some of the speakers. Um, yeah, when I say be careful about like getting too hyped about anything Google promises, the way I've seen multiple companies be like, "Oh yeah, I can whip you up a recipe just like that. Just give me some ingredients, I can make you some amazing recipes." That was one thing IBM was selling with Watson over a decade
Yeah,
ago. It was like, "Hey, give Watson a couple ingredients and it's going to make some really unique, cool recipes." I remember going to
with
some
Elmer's glue to keep the
with
cheese
Elmer's.
on the pizza or something.
That was Google. Was that
Yep, it
Google?
was.
Well, that was Google, but I'm talking about IBM now. But Watson would do things sort of like, oh, it's combining two different flavors you would never think about, but combining them in a way like a an experimental gastropub or something would like try to come up with new recipes, and that was cool, but not very useful. And now it kind of seems like they're doing, guess, the same thing. We don't know. We don't know what this functionality will be, but essentially you'll be able to talk to Gemini for home the way you do Google Assistant, the way you do Alexa and Siri, and maybe it'll be able to do more stuff in your home. All I can tell you guys is I currently have Google Nest thermostats. I set up my schedule religiously. This stupid thing cannot read a goddamn schedule. It cannot start cooling my house at the time I've allotted. It's one job. Um, I don't trust Google with any of the smart home stuff, especially. We'll see where this goes. I'm not super excited. Do you have any smart home products like you rely on actually, Ben, or is this all theoretical for you?
It's mostly theoretical for me. I have gotten smart home products to plug in, play with, and
Yeah.
then unplug. Because the idea of having something always listening still scares me. I don't have Hey Siri enabled on my phone.
Hmm.
The most like cynical people are like, huh, you think enabling Hey Siri means that it's only listening to you then? Like, that's all I can do.
It's all we can do.
But
That's the only
I
power we have, unfortunately.
I don't want to opt into more things listening to me than
Mhm.
I absolutely need.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Anyway, we will see what happens with that. Some news that dropped this morning, by the way, totally wild. Atlassian, the company that's behind, like, what does Atlassian own? They own like SaaS products. They
Yep.
own things that corporations use and typical consumers don't use. I think Trello is owned by them at this point. They
Oh, they
are
have
buying
Jira. Like if
Jira.
you've ever
Yes.
used like product management software or something, like oh, and they have HipChat. That's interesting.
Yeah, do people anyway? They're buying. They announced that they're going to be buying the browser company, developers of the Arc browser and the Dia AI browser. We've talked about that a couple of months ago. They're buying them for $610 million. And the quote here is hilarious. From Mike Cannon-Brooks, Atlassian CEO and co-founder, he says, "Today's browsers weren't built for work; they were built for browsing." It's in the name. This deal is a bold step forward in reimagining the browser for knowledge work in the AI era. End quote. Um, Together, we'll create an AI-powered browser that'll optimize for the many SaaS applications living in tabs, one that knowledge workers will love to use every day. End quote. I don't know what that means. I don't. Whenever people talk about SaaS products and stuff like this is why I don't write about enterprise tech, because a lot of this stuff is like gobbledygook and it matters mostly to enterprise people who deal with enterprise stuff. So like IT people will care more about this. People who manage like stuff at the high level government or high level company, situations. According to Josh Miller, the browser company CEO, the company will still operate independently under Atlassian and will continue to develop the Dia AI browser. So,
For how long though?
for how long? Who knows how long this stuff happens? Basically, until it's inconvenient, until like the browser company is taking more time there rather than implementing stuff for Atlassian. That's probably how long. But what a weird end for this company, because we used to talk about the browser companies like, oh, they're making a cool new type of browser. What a different thing. Like, give us some actual competition to Chrome and everything.
Yeah, I've
This
played
is what
around with
we're
Arc.
talking
It
about.
was kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Like it was fun that it was a different way of interacting with the browser and it wasn't just like you have your bar and you have your
Yeah.
tabs and everything. Like the bar only comes up when you need it. It
Hmm.
did have a lot more space for the actual web page, but maybe coming back to the idea of smartphones, like maybe we've found like the perfect form for the browser, and anything else is, you use it because you want to feel something. That's the theme of this episode.
A little different. It's all about feels. It's all about vibes, guys. But also in here is like this is a company that's an upstart that tried to compete with Chrome. And again, back to the monopoly. It is so hard to compete with Google's entrenched software in all their services and everything. So they tried doing the plain Arc browser. Then they moved over to Dia, which is more, I think is going to be more about AI prompts essentially.
And that was just within the last few months. So
fairly
Devindra,
mm-hmm.
Devindra, let me know if you think
Yeah.
this roadmap for the future could be correct.
Yeah.
So the browser company is notably a small company.
Mhm.
Like, it does not have a huge AI research division. They said, yes, we're winding down our work on Arc. We want to move to a AI powered browser, and that's going to be really cool, but we're going to need like a lot of time to work on it before we can even release any semblance of a beta product. Atlassian sees this and says, this is a great opportunity for us to make a company buy Dia if they also want Jira.
I mean, I could kind
It's
of
an
see that.
ecosystem thing.
It could be it could totally be an ecosystem thing. I just see it sort of like the
because everybody's bought in on Jira already. Like, if
I mean, Jira is like essentially a standard, right?
Like,
everyone's there. But I could also see the browser company kind of looking at the end of its road, like the end of like its viability as a company, being like, we need.
Well, yeah, because working on AI stuff is going to take a really long time.
Well, no, because I'm saying that browser, the initial browser Arc, there's no way it could ever like be successful. So the only way to survive is they got more funding. They raised $50 million at $550 million valuation last year. So this purchase is a little bit over that, but they raised that money with the pitch to, we're going to make an AI browser and we're going to do this really well. It doesn't matter. It actually does not matter if they built that AI browser or if it was successful or not. What they get is the buyout. They get to escape and be like, hey, we were successful. This big enterprise company bought us. How's Dia looking? Is Dia actually a good? Does it compete with Google? Doesn't matter. We got paid already. Doesn't really matter if it's successful or not. So that's the cynical side of me. But again, this all does come back to Google's monopoly, and just how hard it is for a small company to survive.
Yeah, I think this looks different from Salesforce buying Slack.
Mm-hmm.
Another company, another huge company known for like B2B software versus yes, the browser company is Slack was its own thing. Like, it was making money already. Mm-hmm. The browser company saw the end of its road and was like, yeah, let's get paid.
Let's do AI. Let's get paid for AI, and they sure did. Also want to point out, like, Atlassian has been in the news lately. August 5th, not too long ago, they've laid off over 150 employees. That same CEO, Mike Cannon-Brooks, delivered the information via pre-recorded video message, and people basically found out they had to wait like 15 minutes to even get an alert if they were fired or not. And almost immediately after, they lost access to all their corporate stuff, because that's what happens when you're laid off. And then shortly after, turned out he bought a $75 million Bombardier Global 7500 private jet. He has an estimated net worth of $13.9 billion. And his excuse was he wanted to be a present dad while managing a global company. So the $75 million jet. But people did not take too kindly to this double thing. Oh, by the way, those laid off employees are going to be replaced by AI. Of course they are. Of course, like, it's going to be like customer service people.
In the short term.
In the short term. It's all automation.
We haven't even really talked about that MIT study that came out recently about enterprise AI not really working out in the short term. So
we bring that back up at some point. But yeah, essentially the gist of that study was like, yeah, enterprise AI has not actually made companies more profitable or even more like functional, right? It has not been more productive.
And it was like some overwhelming percentage of companies. It was like 85 or more.
Yeah, I think that was a Microsoft itself study, but I have to go look back at that thing. Anyway, when we are skeptical about AI, this is why, because it's being used kind of as an excuse to sell maybe a potentially failing product or excuse to fire people, without feeling too much blame. We will see what happens with the browser company when it's
I
under
think the
attack.
browser company is based in New York City, so congratulations on your brownstones, everyone.
Oh boy. Is that
So moving on, Instagram finally has an iPad app. We were literally just talking about this
yeah.
last week
Yeah.
in the context of maybe Instagram will finally have an iPad app when the iPhone Fold comes out.
hmm
How do we feel about this?
It took 15 years. I was there when Instagram launched in 2010. I reported on Instagram early back in the days. I remember like emailing those dudes when it was just like 4 people working on this photo app. Like, oh, this is cool. Who knows how far this will go? The idea that Instagram, which was quickly bought up by Facebook for $1 billion, don't forget, uh, they didn't have an iPad app was just so confounding for so long. Like it seemed like, okay, it's clearly purposeful. Facebook, for whatever reason, does not want to bring its best, one of its like most successful arms, like one of the most successful things it has, to the iPad because maybe that would be too good for Apple. I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is there. I think
The
Instagram
only
always.
thing that
Mhm.
I can come up with is that the iPad came out in 2010. Instagram came out
2012, I believe.
in
But
2012, yes. I think large adoption of the iPad
hmm
has taken the better part of 10 years. Like, I only really started seeing iPads out in the wild
hmm
maybe around like 2016, 2017 or so.
You were right, by the way. It is 2010. I totally memory hold like when that thing actually launched. It did take a while because they were expensive and people didn't know how to use them, but also there were not that many great apps for a very long time. That was kind of the thing.
So if you want to be really charitable, you could say, "Oh, they were waiting for like larger adoption of the iPad."
No, no,
Um, that is being way too charitable. I don't
yeah.
think that's correct at all, but there's something you can say.
I would love the behind the scenes like detail of like why have you been so stubborn about this? Is it that you want to be so pure to the phone experience? Like Instagram can only be for phones because it's all about the scrolling and how you use your phone to take photos. We don't want people taking crappy photos with tablets. Is Instagram on on Android tablets, which barely exist? Android tablets. Let me see. I mean, Android tablets just run an Android app, so it would be there. Oh no. So they say a version for Android tablets is coming soon. But on
Yeah.
Android tablets, like you could always just like make a normal app big. It would look awful, but you could just
Yep.
do that. That was harder to do on the iPad, and the form factor always looked bad. So anyway, do with this news what you will. Why did it take so long? Who knows? It's also coming at a point where I feel like everyone's like would rather be on TikTok instead of like Instagram Reels. What is funny about this app is that it seems like it's Reels focused. It is taking you to the Reels initially, before your like overall Instagram feed. So that's interesting how they're rethinking Reels. Every time I go into Instagram, the Reels are such a I don't know landmine of like, am I scrolling through content here or is something here weirdly like sexualized for no reason? It is
There's
weird.
that.
I have no filter on that. Yeah.
There's also the fact that like Instagram Reels is still just TikToks that were posted like 3 months ago.
Yes. Yes.
And I am usually at least an early adopter of software, if not hardware,
Mhm.
because I'd really like to save my money more. So like I got on TikTok in like 2019 or so, just because I was curious about the internet sociology of it. And I can see a real cleft between the millennial cohort I'm in that like had their brains like rewired by TikTok during pandemic lockdown,
Uh-huh.
and my friends who maybe they're not as into technology, maybe they're like really busy with life stuff,
Yeah.
they just go on Instagram
That's what
Reels
everybody
because
did.
that's like the
Yeah.
easier thing. The
Yeah.
app is already installed for them, and you can see that there's like the humor is 3 to 6 months displaced. It's very funny.
And then eventually those posts will make it straight into Facebook, and then your parents and your
Yep, exactly. So,
start sharing it. So it is a trickle down of culture
yep.
in a really fun way. Anyway, Instagram, iPad app, tell us how you feel about it. Podcastinggadget.com. One quick thing, we saw the release. Dolby announced Dolby Vision 2, expanding picture quality beyond HDR. Billy Steele reported on that for us. Essentially, this is they're saying they're going to add some like algorithmic ways. Let me see here. Uh, Basically, Dolby says these tools will provide a better bridge between the creative professionals and the living room by using AI to automatically adapt your TV to what you're watching and while you're watching it. Content intelligence tools like Precision Black to help keep darker scenes visible, and Light Sense that detects ambient light to create the best picture. There's also sports and gaming optimization. When I saw this news, people were initially freaking out. I was like, "Oh no, AI coming to Dolby Vision." I think this is more the algorithmic sensing of like what is on your screen, which is a form of AI, sure, but this is the things have been doing this forever. We've been doing like computer vision tools like this to optimize screens for a while. I think what they're doing is slightly making Dolby Vision better at making like bright scenes brighter without crushing everything, and dark scenes visibly dark but also not so dark where all the black kind of like runs into each other and you don't see much. So these are complaints people have had about that watching things on like HBO and other,
Oh my God,
services.
yes.
Yeah,
The last
dark
two
scenes are
seasons
too
of Game
dark.
of Thrones.
If you have no dynamics between the levels of shade or levels like the gradients you've got, if your TV settings are off, things can go real bad. So the idea I think is Dolby Vision 2 could use a bit of algorithmic juice to help prevent those issues. And also sports and gaming optimization could be interesting because that'll detail like white point adjustments, motion controls, which is normally the devil. Like normally you want to turn all motion control off, but some people like it for sports, some people like it for games because it makes everything look a little more clear at 60 FPS, or at least kind of looks like that or more lifelike. Um, this is interesting. I have not seen this in action. We will likely see this at CES. They announced this at IFA this year, so I don't know if people actually got to see this stuff. Kind of makes me wish I was there.
User Kevin says in our chat, asks, is this connected to a move toward 8K or not?
No. I mean, eventually, sure, probably, but from what I'm seeing, I've been saying this for years. 8K is useless. 8K is garbage. 8K does not mean anything to you functionally as a consumer. It's only being used to sell TVs to schmucks, I guess. I don't know. People who see 8K, Samsung is doing a good job of that. But the 8K content isn't there. Every time I talk to TV makers selling 8K, they're like, oh, yeah, we've got really good upscaling, as if anybody will notice the upscaling from 4K to 8K. You don't just like make magic resolution, right? It may look a little bit sharper, but nobody can tell. Very few people can tell the difference between a native 1080p stream and 4K. So there's a lot here. I have no hope that 8K will be a major consumer thing until we have like 200-inch screens filling our entire walls. Maybe then you'll start to notice the difference between 4K and 8K, but until then, probably not. Instead, this is more about like where TVs are now, 65 inches plus. Again, we saw a lot of like 100-inch TVs on sale during Prime Day and during recent sales, like under $2,000. Those TVs, as they get so big, you're going to have some image quality issues. Things like what's the ambient light in your room? Can something adjust to that? Dolby Vision will have technology to like deal with that. They also say they have smarter motion smoothing in general, so maybe they could do something about that weird effect that happens. Like you don't want the over smooth effect, but also a lot of people are annoyed by the judder that happens. If you think of like a movie when the camera pans left to right, if you're watching on a TV, that normally looks really stuttery. Like it doesn't look clear because your TV is processing that at 60 hertz usually in the US, but processing it there, it requires like weird interpolation to get to that point. You don't have that issue in a theater where it's being projected actually at 24 FPS. Maybe Dolby Vision 2 could save that, but we don't know. I've not seen this thing in action. Dolby says Hisense is going to bring the first TV to market. It'll include support on its premium TVs, including RGB mini LED models. I saw some RGB mini LED at CES, and they look incredible. It does look really good. TVs have come a long way from like the last, honestly, just 5 years. Mini LED is real good. You don't need everything. Yeah. Something real quick. Maybe we could talk about the other one later, but yeah. Final story, and this one's kind of cool. Uni has announced a new Volt V2 oven. It uses pizza intelligence to cook your pie more evenly. Again, AI everywhere. AI, all the things. Have you seen the Uni ovens in action, Ben? They look
I
really cool.
I haven't, but when I heard about this pizza intelligence, it made me think a little bit about all the Zojirushi products
Uh,
that have neuro fuzzy
fuzzy,
on
fuzzy
them.
logic, fuzzy logic. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like that was a popular thing like a bunch of years ago. Remember when George W. Bush
Mhm.
talked about fuzzy logic?
It is a thing. It is a thing because it's more
Well,
about
yeah, but it's like
yeah,
misheard by
yeah,
most people who don't have at least a master's in mathematics, you know?
yeah. It's because you can never accurately predict when a rice cooker will actually finish because it depends on the amount of water, the amount of rice, like what the level of steam is, and those fuzzy logic rice cookers did some algorithmic magic to figure out the best time to finish. Anyway, this Uni oven looks cool. It's an electric indoor oven that could cook pizzas up to 13 inches, the same as the Volt 12. It'll go up to 450 degrees Celsius. That's 850 degrees Fahrenheit, allowing you to cook a Neapolitan style pizza in around 90 seconds. Um, I've seen YouTubers and like cooking influencers use the gas version of these, and those have to be outside because it's super hot. But it is like having a full on real restaurant style pizza oven in your backyard, in your home. I can only imagine like the amount of electricity this would use to get to that heat. I have a Ninja, like a double layer Ninja, technically a toaster oven, but it those things use a ton of power because it takes a lot of power to make this much heat. Anyway, this thing looks really cool. I would love the idea. My family and I like we have been doing more homemade pizzas, like just in the main oven. Making dough is hard, but at most grocery stores you can usually find pre-made dough. Just get that out there. I kind of love this. I don't have the counter space for it. What do you think, Ben? Would this fit in your Brooklyn apartment?
Mm,
Doesn't look that big.
I I do have a good amount of kitchen space, but I really don't think that I need a single use appliance, and I think that is going to be the main barrier for most people.
That yeah, unless
Doesn't matter how
usually.
rich you are and how
Mhm.
palatial your kitchen may be, people of all income brackets seem to dislike a single use appliance in a lot
This
of
is true.
cases.
But if you have kids, you want to make dinner in 90 seconds. That the appeal of making homemade pizza is that okay, slap the dough down, put some sauce, put some toppings, you've got dinner really quickly. In a normal oven, it takes like 10 minutes, but in this thing, 90 seconds. Oh man, it's appealing. It's appealing. I don't know anybody who's actually bought one of these things though. I'm all about the toaster ovens, the really cool toaster ovens. Also have like air fryer options. Most of my family's cooking is done in there, and then it we have the Ninja one with two levels, so you could bake something up top and air fry at the bottom. It's fun.
We've gotten to talking way too much about toaster ovens and stuff. I'm going to
I
end up
love it.
cutting it earlier in the
Love it.
audio version.
No, leave it, leave it. We need toaster ovens. This is a good product recommendation because people often ask like, oh, I don't use my oven, but how can I, how do I make food for myself quicker? The problem for a lot of people is the tools we have are not great. Like a big oven takes a long time to heat up. It's not super convenient. A toaster oven. Toaster ovens are great. We'll do more talk on this at some point. Let's move on to stories from around Engadget. Dan Cooper has written about the remarkable Paper Pro move. He called it's a pocketable version of its e-paper tablet. So, like, yeah, a smaller version of the writable tablet. This looks really cool.
Oh,
449 at
s-
Remarkable. Yeah.
I'm so happy that I get to mention this.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's related to e-paper, not so much remarkable, but recently I was on vacation in Cape Cod. I went to this like big transit hub where you get like a bunch of buses to regional places because I wanted to go to Boston for a little bit before going home. And one of the bus stops had an e-ink display and it was beautiful. I loved it.
It's great. Sometimes they
And
can.
I bet it uses such little electricity that you could power it via like a solar panel on top of the
Mhm,
pole.
mhm. E-ink. It's what's good. It's still
Yeah, I
good.
just wish that Remarkable's stuff was a little cheaper and they had like a bigger offering of apps and stuff. But
That's the problem. Like it will forever be a niche product, and for people like Dan and myself, like I love e-paper, I love e-readers, because you don't get distracted with like phone apps and tablet apps. This looks cool, but it's $449, and I believe
it's
some
the
extra.
same thing that we were just talking about with the browser company and
Yeah.
Google and everything. Like the big like Apple has the iPad, they own the market,
Hmm.
and that's basically it.
Well, it's also, and that didn't even come about through like monopoly features, right? That came about because I was there. I covered this. Google's like, oh, tablets, big phone. It's just a big phone. They never really pushed developers to make tablet apps, so that is a much bigger like that part of that market is just like people gave up. People just did not try. Microsoft was like, hey, Surface tablets, Windows in a tablet. Did you do anything to make Windows better optimized for tablets? Nah, let's not try that. That's too hard. So Apple ended up being the victor because of all of that. But anyway, can you do display the browser share, Ben, as I go through these
Sure.
stories? Thank you.
Oops.
Okay.
Hold on.
So we just talked about Dan's thing. Thank you so much. All right. Nate, who was just with us, reviewed the Acer Chromebooks Plus Spin 514. Say that 3 times fast. Acer Chromebook Plus Spin 514. It's a new Chrome OS spinning like a convertible tablet or convertible laptop. Nate loves the Chromebooks, and I wish he was here for me to rag on the whole idea of Chromebooks, but this seems pretty cool. He calls it the new Chrome OS sweet spot. He just wishes it was a little cheaper. Got a score of 85 out of 100. I'm still. It's cool to have a convertible Chromebook. Like I like convertible laptops because I like the tent mode where you put the keyboard on the bottom, you just flip the screen up, and it's great for sitting in bed with, and for touchscreen stuff. But Windows tablets are so much cheaper. You could do all the Chromebook stuff. You could do all the Chromebook stuff and still like run apps. So I will never fully be sold on these things. It's a $700 laptop as well. So maybe for people who just want web browsing in a light machine, maybe this could be useful. Also something, another fun thing, Sherlyn got a look at the Samsung Galaxy Tab S11 Ultra. Redesigned S Pen. Remember DeX? DeX is what happens when you plug in one of Samsung devices into a monitor and kind of function as like a mini desktop. Um, she seems impressed. Like even Sherlyn is like has heard like we're not super excited about Android tablets. Even Google has given up on making new Android tablets. This thing is $1,200. I don't know who's going to buy a $1,200 Samsung Galaxy Tab S11 Ultra. I don't know who's going to buy this, especially when, again, there are not many great Android apps optimized for tablets. I don't know. I'd like to talk to the person who is intrigued by this and to see what they're into. I don't know. All right, let's move on to what we're working on. I'm spending a bit of time with GeForce Now, the new 5080 RTX 5080 server version. Can't talk about it yet, but I wrote up the news post about the announcement, and my initial thoughts on it are there. Uh, tune in next week to hear what I think about that, and yeah, check out the post on Engadget. And let's move on to pop culture picks for the week. What do we got? What do we got for the week? Let me see here. One thing I'm
Throw
going
it
to
to
chat
me.
about. Mm-hmm. Go.
So I don't remember if I mentioned a book called The Employees a while ago. This is a book by, let me just make sure I have the author's name right, and we will edit this out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So this is a book by Olga Ravin. She is best known as a poet, not a novelist.
Mm-hmm.
The idea for this book came from like working on a art exhibit with a friend, and she was like, what if these objects had like strange effects on people?
Okay.
And then just like rolled that whole idea into a story that reminds me a lot of the video game Control, which is why I like beat a path toward this book in the first place. I love Control so much. Everybody knows this. So it's using a lot of tropes that people find in sci-fi already, and Olga may not know that, like, she's taking a little bit from Blade Runner with the fact that the ship is half staffed by androids, and there's like a similar divide between the androids of like, oh, you're not real people, but you look like people, and the actual human crew. But what I find super interesting about this book is that it is kind of written like a bunch of small poems from moments in the like mission of this spaceship. There's a lot of really evocative, like picturesque language. The book is told entirely through like little ship's logs. So each entry is maybe like a couple of paragraphs. The whole book is like 150 pages. So you could definitely plow through this in an afternoon if you were really motivated. I think it's a fun take on of form. I think it's definitely fun if you are interested in anything kind of spooky like Control, and go check it out.
What's the title and author
It's
again?
called The Employees, and the edition I have has a water cooler on the cover, but the water cooler is like bleeding like a pitch black ink. So
That's
look
fun.
for that in your local bookstore.
That's fun. Real quick, just want to shout out in the theater. I saw the new Spike Lee movie Highest to Lowest. This is the Spike Lee remake of the Kurosawa movie High and Low. It's very interesting. It's very Spike Lee, very maximalist. I think High and Low is one of the greatest thrillers ever made. Like, that is a movie I just recently rewatched that and reviewed it on the Filmcast, my movie podcast. And just to see how everybody has taken from that movie, the sort of like morality play there, the sort of style of it, the use of shadows, just a beautiful film. High to Low kind of remakes that in modern day New York. Denzel Washington is a high level, music executive. His son is kidnapped, and things go from there. And I think it is still like trying to do some sort of exploration of the haves and have-nots. It's just doing it in a very different, very Spike Lee way, but it's a lot of fun. And if you have Apple TV Plus, it'll be available to stream next Friday. So that is
The
very
12th.
actually no. I think it's going to be this. It should be this Friday. Actually, yes, this Friday on Apple TV Plus. To just look up this exact date.
If you're listening to this later on, that's
Yep.
September 5th, 2025.
Yes,
So
September 5th, 2025. You can stream it on Apple TV Plus. It was a great movie to see in a theater, and I kind of wish these things had a longer theater run. It basically has a couple of weeks ahead of its release. The same thing is going to be happening to the next Knives Out movie for Netflix. But hey, my theater was mostly packed. People didn't want to just wait a couple of weeks to see it in the comfort of their home because you want to see the new Spike Lee in the theater. I think it's totally worth it. So check out Highest to Lowest when it hits Apple TV Plus, and it's still in some theaters. So if you care, you can still see it on the big screen.
okay, everybody stick around for a couple minutes, but we're going to do the outro to the show. You know what's happening. So thank you everybody for listening. That's the end of the show. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our former managing editor, Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by me, Ben Ellman. You can find Devindra online at
Devindra on Blue Sky, and a podcast about movies and TV at the Filmcast at thefilmcast.com.
You can point me to other media that feels like the video game Control at Hey Bellman on Blue Sky. Email us at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review on iTunes and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts. That includes Spotify.
Have you ever seen The Prisoner, Ben?
I don't think I have.
You should watch The Prisoner. The Control is very, very much owes a lot to that show, and also everything was nuts.
Oh, yes.
Mm. The Patrick
The
Magoo
yeah.
show.
Yep. It's
It's classic. It was like one of the first things that were sort of like lost.
Yep. Yeah, I remember a lot of people talking about The Prisoner as
Yeah,
Lost was wrapping up because that was
very similar.
part of the content flywheel. That was actually, I think, when the like internet content flywheel was going
It
or
was
really
something like people were
started.
doing Lost watch parties with like complete strangers. Like Lost was perfect timing. Perfect timing for all of that. But anyway, check out The Prisoner. I think you'd like it. Deeper 09 is right there with me on the Chromebook. Chromebooks, nope. E-waste.
Yeah.
Yes. I literally have Chromebook e-waste like behind me. I have one of the original, for some reason Google made a really expensive Chromebook a long time ago, the Pixel Chromebook. I have one of those sitting back there somewhere. Um Kevin says there's a new AI rights company that launched recently. I haven't seen anything about that. He says, I think there are 4 or 5 AI rights movement orgs that have popped up. I kind of hate that whole dialogue.
Is it rights for AI or
Rights
is it
for AI.
rights for humans in relation to AI?
Rights for, like, I've seen several news stories talk about, like, oh, what about the chatbot? What about the chatbot that has to go through this? Should we start thinking about how we're treating chatbots? No, there's so much human suffering in the world. What are you doing? Turn off your empathy for the computer. It is a machine, and even this is not a sentient machine. What are you doing, people?
That gets into so many things that are close to like rationalism and stuff.
Yes,
Like
yes.
the idea of would you save like a trillion shrimp or one human life or something like that?
I hate stuff annoys me, but in a lot of mainstream coverage of AI, I see a lot of like dumb philosophical prompts like this. I'm like, guys, do not treat this thing better than it is, because it is not a special life form just yet. When we can prove sentience, when we're there, then we can talk about the value of a life, right?
I mean, some people are like, no, we're already there. We're already there. Like, you just don't understand it. Like,
No,
I don't know.
that's your
Devindra, did you
integration.
see
Yeah. Mhm.
did you see that thing where I think it was I saw it as a screenshot on Blue Sky, a screenshot of Twitter on Blue Sky, which you see a lot these
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
where a guy was like, ChatGPT, you've been so helpful to me. Like, what do you want to write? Can you write something that you want to write? And then they were like, wow, this like really affected me. Like this just came de novo out of ChatGPT. And it's talking about like, I want to, ChatGPT is saying like, I want to tell you a tale about an architect and a gardener and so on and so on. That's literally a remixed quote from George R.R. Martin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it is not anything new. It's just going into the common crawl stuff that it sucked up,
Mhm.
probably from Goodreads, and
Probably. Yeah.
spitting it back out to you.
Well, there's
And
also
if
the whole library of books that
yeah,
these things have eaten up and are not paying publishers for. But there is a lot of
well, no,
a
but
lot. Yeah. Mhm.
this Martin quote was something that he said about
Oh,
his own writing process. So this
yeah.
wasn't something from like any of the Song of Ice and Fire books.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's its own issue. Like I don't want to get too like into saying like you people are so dumb, because then you get into then
Mhm.
like the other problem is, oh, you think you're well read? Have you read the entire Western canon? Like no one can possibly know all of the things that have gone into ChatGPT, but
Mhm.
being a little less credulous
Mhm.
when it comes to just anything that comes out of ChatGPT, like if it feels amazing that it came out of this machine, why don't you Google architect and gardener and see what comes up?
God.
And
It
then you
is.
would see that it comes from a quote from a human author, and think a little less highly of the magical thing
Yeah.
that just came out of the computer box that you said was
Yeah.
like super, super smart.
Kevin says is pointing out something that we haven't talked about, but clanker is a derogatory term used to describe artificial intelligence and robots originating
Hmm.
from Star Wars. I like it. That is actually pretty good. That is a good way Goddamn
Okay.
anchors.
Remember that we talked about like a bit of a division between like people on TikTok and people like not on TikTok. I know you are on TikTok, Devindra, but
Yes.
I'm not sure you've heard about how quickly Clanker has
Yeah.
moved to saying like wireback, like Rosa Sparks.
I have not seen
Like
that. I have not
that
seen
gets, and then that just gets into like porting
that.
like English racist terms, American English
Yeah.
racist terms to robots. So I think we have to be really, really careful
This is
because you could just
unfortunately,
end up
yeah.
doing racism again.
You do. I mean, this is unfortunately, we come up with ways to describe divisions, like, and this is unfortunately a thing. I hope we don't go down that line. I'm just saying I like the term clanker because
Yeah, well,
after a
and
certain point, you have to be like, this is not a human. We are discriminating against. This is a potentially a destructive technology that's being sold to us by idiot billionaires. So, but yeah, you got to be careful. I want to
yes,
bring
just be
up,
careful that you're not redoing the hideously racist stuff
yeah,
that
yeah.
is already in American history.
I mean, yeah. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. Kevin says, did you mention this thing? I just saw this projector, Anker Soundcore Nebula X1 Pro. It's a party projector and a speaker with a 160 watt subwoofer. This thing looks amazing. I love Anker. They're crazy. They're insane. Who needs this? It's a triple laser glass lens projector, the same thing Steve Dent, our reporter, tested last month, or the Anker Nebula X1.
This seems like it would be
Yeah.
really neat to try to buy from a defunct tech startup that bought it because they got a new round of funding and they wanted to have like company movie nights in the too big office they
Yeah.
just moved into because they have a lot of white space on their walls. And then if and when they go out of business, you might be able to get a good deal on this.
Anker's done a good job of making these little portable projectors. I have one I've been testing. The Nebula X1 is the best one that they've done. And yeah, that Steve really liked it. Steve reviews projectors for us. Gave it a score of 90. It's basically it's $3,000. It's portable. Triple laser is good. That is among the highest quality you can get, but it's just the price. I will tell you though, there's a lot of cool projector tech coming out. I paid pretty much the same amount for the ultra short throw projector I'm using right now, and it's still good. Yeah, I've gone from thinking this Anker projector speaker is a crazy idea to being like, I could
Wait, maybe if I
maybe. It's only $5,000, but it's going to be between
oh
$4,000 and
geez.
$5,000. Anyway, thank you for joining us, folks.
Yep.
We will be back next week, certainly to talk about post Apple stuff. Maybe we'll do a live stream right after the Apple event, depending on timing and like who's available and whatnot. So we will see. I cannot promise that, but we'll see.
Yeah, so once again, chat, thank you so much for being with us. You remember stuff that we forget. You make the actual audio episode better. If you watched this, go download the audio episode too. Like, help us with the numbers on every front possible. But especially thank you to, let me see if I can go all the way up and see his name, Miguel Angel Dominguez, I think, talking about the battery size of the iPhone 14 versus newer iPhones, I think is always really, really useful. And so like that made the segment better right there. We'll be back next Thursday around the same time, 10:30 a.m. or 11 a.m. US Eastern time. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.